At InDigital, we know the public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI Net goes beyond industry standards, not only I3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
It is a new day for 911 professionals. They have gone from the most important person you will never see to the most vital piece of public safety. Truth be told, they always have been. The curtain has been pulled back, and they are sharing their stories. Welcome to Imagine Listening. Your Worst Day is Our Everyday by Ricardo Martinez II, and narrated by myself, Ricardo Martinez II, and distributed by Beacon Audio Books. Copyright 2023. That's right, everyone. Finally, I can let everyone know the rumors are true. Imagine Listening, Your Worst Day is Our Everyday is now available as an audiobook on Audible, and it's a long time coming. Very excited. Not a lot of authors get the opportunity to voice their own book, but I had the honor and privilege to do so. So thank you to Beacon Audio Books, as well as my publisher, Titled Town Publishing, for everything, but especially all of you for making the I Am 911 movement, as well as Imagine Listening, what it is today. I appreciate you all more than you know. So go ahead, head out, stream it, download it, however you consume your audiobooks. Imagine Listening is now available. If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be episode 532 of Within the Trenches, True Stories from the 911 Dispatchers Who Live Them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader next-gen core services, and a big shout-out, as always, to subscribers of the podcast. Thank you all so very much. And so I'm jumping in here really quick because this episode is going to be a little different. I was recently out at Eaton County Central Dispatch in Michigan, and I had the honor and privilege of doing a book signing there for Imagine Listening, but also my good friend Kelley Cunningham, who is the director there, brought me in, got to do that book signing, but also gave me a huge tour of her center, and I got to record some episodes there as well. So the last couple episodes with Libby and Rich there at the center, and this one as well. Part of the interview is actually for a short video that I'm putting up all over social media. That's a highlight, really, of Kelley and her crew and the center itself. So that's going to be coming out soon. But this episode here is done in a vertical, like it was on my phone. So it's only her. You can hear me in the background asking questions, but the interview was just so good that I wanted to make it an episode as well. So that's what this is here. And again, it was a pleasure to be out there. So without further ado, here is episode 532 of Within the Trenches, featuring director of Eaton County Central Dispatch, Kelley Cunningham.
My name is Kelley Cunningham, and I am the Eaton County Central Dispatch Director.
So how many people do you have working here, and also how many people do you have working here at a time on a shift?
Yes, I have 6 supervisors and 16 telecommunicators. I also have 2 support staff. One is my executive assistant, and one is my clerk receptionist who enters all the lovely warrants, bond conditionals, PPOs. So my dispatchers don't have to do it often, and I think she might be the favorite person, just so they don't have to do it. All that lean work.
How many agencies do you dispatch for?
24 different agencies for police, fire, and EMS. So we do have some fire agencies that are fire and EMS, and then we have some strictly just fire departments and multiple law enforcement departments.
How did you get into public safety to begin with?
Funny story. I went to school to be an elementary teacher. Same difference, right?
What?
Yes. So I went to school to become an elementary teacher, and when I graduated, it was in the middle of the recession. And very different from today, there was about 1 opening and 500 applicants to be a teacher. So I fell into dispatch. I applied and got the job and fell in love with it. So then while I was working and working the floor as a dispatcher, I decided to go back to school, and I actually got a small scholarship from APCO International, where I went to Jacksonville State University. It's in Alabama, and got my master's in public administration with a concentration in emergency management. But it is kind of funny. I go to schools and teach teachers how to use Rave Panic Button. So that's deployed throughout our county to all the schools, and basically the contract's under Eaton County 911, and then the schools pay into it, so that they all have the same panic button, all that stuff. But I get to go to schools and teach teachers, and I'm like, funny story was I went to school to be a teacher. So I was like, but you too could be a 911 director.
That is pretty awesome. You know, I don't think I ever knew that.
No? Yeah.
No.
Went to school to be an elementary teacher.
That is hilarious. And here you are. You've been doing this for how many years now?
18 years.
18 years.
18 years. Yes.
So as you know, we've been recording other episodes while we've been here. We've been talking to a lot of people, but I want to ask you the same thing though. Throughout this time, or even in the beginning, rather, what was it that kind of solidified your path to being in public safety? I mean, you went through that point. There was 500 applicants, but you fell into public safety, into dispatching. But was there anything that really, that you kind of locked into? How did you dial into it?
Well, the training program is always so fun. And it's like, I never really had a problem with school. I was always like a straight A student. And I do have to say, during the training program, there was days where I'm like, what in the world? Because, especially, and I try to remind even new people today that may be really good at school, this is not school. It is hard. And you're not going to come in every day and get an A. Like, you're learning, and you have to learn, and it's a process. And there's a lot that we do here. And it's hard to kind of, when you come out of school into this, it is very different. It is on the job training, it's hands-on, and you have to learn as you go. You have to learn from your mistakes, where school is you study, right? And you take a test and you test your knowledge. So that was a little bit hard to go through that. But, and I always tell people, like, it takes a good 2-3 years before you're like, I know what I'm doing. I feel confident, right? So once I got through that tough phase, I fell in love with it in the sense of I'm making a difference, but I also kind of liked being a detective. So my deputy director at the time, April Heinze, always allowed us to research and do things with calls. We were fortunate enough where we had laptops and we could get on Facebook and search things. And sometimes with our resources, Facebook is our best resource. I remember walking in one day and they're like, yeah, we had an armed robbery at a bank. And I was like, okay. And they're like, yeah, look at, like, they said he had this ugly sweater on. And I'm like, And they show us a picture of the footage. And I'm like, interesting. So I do hashtag ugly sweater, hashtag bank robber. And up pops the picture, and he's been robbing banks in the same sweater for multiple months. And the FBI knew who he was and was looking for him. So I called the chief of police at the time and said, hey, I think I ID'd your suspect. And they called the FBI, and they actually found him trying to head towards Canada. So that, I mean, like, that's cool to be able to, be part of that process and help solve a crime. It's cool.
Oh man. So I have to agree that, and I think that's, I've only really talked about it with people maybe a handful of times, really. Maybe more. I don't know. It's over 500 episodes, so maybe I have spoken to people about it. But it's that aspect of being a detective, and I don't know about you, but like in dispatch, we don't stop until we find the person or exhaust all of our resources. And I'll share something with you really quick, something that I don't think I've ever shared on the podcast before, but now I feel compelled to do it.
Wow, I'm excited.
There was one time that, and I believe I was supervising that night. We were a person short, and we were trying to get a hold of one of our coworkers, and we didn't know where this person was, but we knew that she recently had started dating a pilot, and we thought, what if she ended up taking off with him or something, just going off the wall. So then we go to social media and we start tracking everything and figuring it out, piecing it all together. And sure as shit, it turned out that she split with her boyfriend, went back to Texas. And we're like, okay, well, I guess we just have to call somebody else in because this person isn't showing up. But we had to do that. We had to go through social media, go through that person's social media, and then I believe our deputy who worked the area where she was living at the time, he called the boyfriend, and he was just making up all these stories, and he goes, I know she's with you. We have already figured it all out, and finally got her on the phone, and she's like, I quit. That was such an epic way for someone to quit from dispatch. And yeah, I've never shared that story before. Oh, man.
My car got broken into in the middle of the night. I woke up and I'm like, oh, of course, I know better. I shouldn't leave all my stuff in there, but I did. Well, I'm getting ready for work. I come to work and I'm like, you never make a dispatcher mad because I got 12 hours to find you. Well, he put all of my items on Craigslist. So, and I could ID them by, like, I had a Kindle and it was this same exact case I had. It was this bright green case and everything. So I set up a meet and I worked with the local police department. And he came to sell my Kindle and got arrested. Yes. So I was like, yep, never make a dispatcher mad. We have 12 hours to find you.
Oh, that is the best.
Yes.
I knew this was going to be fun once
yes.
we started doing this. This is excellent. So, kind of looking back in the beginning of your career and stuff, was there anything that really kind of just like shocked you or overwhelmed you or anything like that that just kind of stuck with you from that time?
I wouldn't say there's a particular call that has stuck with me, but I came from a family that has zero law enforcement, public safety, zero. So, it was interesting. Like a normal day at work, I go to family events and they're like, oh, how's work? And I tell them, and half of my family is like, that's so cool. And their eyes are just wide open staring at me like I almost have 3 heads. They're like, what is happening and where do you work? There's been some difficult calls, but again, I think the one thing that we stress here is mental wellness and checking on each other and, talking it out. And, even if something didn't really bug you, you always have people checking in on you here and just saying like, hey, if you need to talk, I'm here. And we all realize what goes on. We're all in the loop here. We all know what calls happen over the course of a day. And, we're not going to be too intrusive if you don't want someone to be intrusive, but we're checking on everyone and making sure that they have someone to talk to and are handling those difficult calls.
So with that said, this is a good segue because there's a lot of talk about workplace culture. How important is the topic of workplace culture here at Eaton County?
It is so important because we work 12-hour shifts and you are here sometimes with your work family more than you are with your actual family. And you have different phases. So I've been in the same center for 18 years. So I've seen phases of everyone's happy, everyone's not, we're angry about this, or we're really happy about this. But, as I progressed as telecommunicator, then a training officer, and then supervisor, and then when I really went into that role of deputy director, we did have a lot of change. So Director Heinze left, and we have someone else coming in, and it's just the change is, how dispatchers are, they do not like change. Mm-hmm. So when I stepped into the role of deputy director, I was the second or third deputy director in a shorter period of time, and I really had to change the culture at that point. And I, at some points, thought they were going to think I'm annoying, but oh well, right? And, the biggest thing is I said, guys, we can complain and bitch, like it is what it is. And sometimes we need to do that, right? But supervisors, that's where you step into the conversation and say, I hear you. How are we going to change it? Because if you don't have a solution and you just want to complain, nothing's ever going to change here. And then also, if you just look for the negative, that's all you're going to see. I remember I gave everyone a notebook and I said, if you come in for the next 30 days and write all the things you are grateful for and all the positive things that are happening around you, if you list 5 out every shift, you will get a prize. 2 people did it. Okay, 2 people, that's it. They were rewarded with a gift card, but I do have to say that those 2 people did make a difference, and finding the positivity, it was contagious. And that it takes time. It's not going to change overnight, but I can't do it alone. That's where my supervisors come in, and they need to also enforce that vision and help people find all the great things that are happening around here. So I can come in all day long and say, my desk is moved, my desk is messy, this caller's rude, da-da-da-da. You can just list off negative, and if that's all you see, that's all you're ever gonna see. But you need to start changing that mindset where, okay, there's a lot of good things that are happening around here. And what are those good things? And you help change the telecommunicators' mindset by saying, okay, what's great around here? And, you have to pull it out of them, and you have to really change it in order for the culture to change.
So, for one, I love hearing this because more and more centers are moving towards a workplace culture this way. There are some that are not like that, and that sucks. But it is changing. It's a new day. It's changing everywhere. One of the things that I noticed that I would like for you to touch on as well as we're talking about workplace culture is just down this main hallway. There are plaques up. There are awards. You have pictures of all of your folks on the wall as well. And I immediately felt this family feeling, walking through and knowing that, you're showing off your people, especially if, let's just say, for example, there is a Citizens Academy that comes through or something, or someone else is doing a tour or whatever. That's the first thing that they see. First impressions is always the most important thing. And when you walk in, it's so welcoming, and you can tell just by looking at everything the way you have it set up that the workplace culture is top notch. What were the thoughts behind putting all of that out there on the wall?
Well, when I became deputy director, it was a blank canvas. And it literally, we started getting some stuff on the wall, and we had some kind of random resolutions and stuff all over the place. And I like to decorate, but I was like, I do like to decorate. But, the biggest thing is that I want people to know how important they are. I can, as a director, do all these great things, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I don't have all my people, right? Like, I can only be as good as all my people put in. And no one sees our faces a lot of times, and it's nice to, and we also don't get to see each other every day. You have people that will go months without seeing someone that works here because they work completely opposite shifts. And, I just wanted it to represent that here are all of our people, and, it's the faces of Eaton County 911. When I go to a career fair or I talk about my center, first off, I have a slide, and it is all the pictures of my people. So when I start my presentation, before I go any farther, I want you to see my people and how great they are. So, because I am only good because of them. And I show them all the faces of Eaton County 911, and I'm like, they are doing the job day in and day out and serving this community and helping save lives. So I want to take a moment. I want you to look at my people. So, they are the heart of the center, and they're the most important. So that is why they are the main focal point in the hallway. And then, the Tree of Life is also important, where, we're recognized for CPR saves and helping deliver a baby. And also there's as that kind of developed, the Tree of Life, we found instances, for example, my deputy director, he works for a fire department also. And he arrived to a scene, and the person came up to him and said, "That dispatcher saved my life." And he's like, "Okay, how's that?" And, well, I wasn't going to get out of my house. I wanted to get all of these items. And she used her stern voice and said, "Sir, get out of the house now." And all of a sudden, for some reason, he listened. He left the house, and he's like, "She saved my life." Well, that doesn't fall under a CPR save or helping deliver a baby. So we expanded it to a Lifesaver Award. So
that's amazing. And a true testament to just everything that you all do here. So not just with everything that you have going on work culture-wise, but there was something that I saw, and you have it sitting in front of you as well. And this this goes towards, public education, everything that you do around here, but also humanizing that voice within the trenches of 911. What exactly is that, and what was the idea behind it?
Yes, so this is my annual report. Now, our previous director, Michael Armitage, also made something similar, but I started expanding on it. It was always something about the data, the calls, how many warrants we entered, how many this and that. It was numbers. But at the end of the day, the people are making those numbers happen. So we kind of have a joke that it's now our yearbook. And we do have one copy where everyone signs a page. You can sign by your photo, but we keep those in a separate place. But it really talks about not only the director, deputy director, the supervisor teams, and then we have numerous different teams like the training cadre, the peer support, we have public education, we have public relations, tactical dispatch, all sorts of different teams, because it is so important for me to get people out of these four walls and make sure that they know how big of a difference they're making in that community. we go to PR events and I listen. I step back and listen, and I just watch people. And complete strangers will come up to my dispatchers and say, I had to call you when my house caught on fire. And thank you. And they just take the moment to thank them. You don't get it all the time, but we also have a 911 Tahoe that we put in parades, and I roll down the windows and wave, right? And I just hear so many people, there's 911, thank you. And you really don't get that a lot, right? I mean, a lot of times we're somewhat forgotten, and I would say we've always made a hard precedent in this county that 911 isn't forgotten, and that was my predecessors that started that, and I am continuing that. But when police, fire, EMS, they're all recognized, they always include us. So that's a great thing. We rarely have to fight to be involved with the rest of the first responders in this county. But, this annual report is nice because I get to highlight all the great things my people do throughout the year. I'm also the annoying mother that goes around taking everyone's picture all the time, and they're like, here she is with her camera again. But then, it's kind of like what my husband says. I'm annoyed at the moment when you're taking my picture, but it's nice to look back at the memories. And, I don't really have that many pictures of me as a baby dispatcher or, early on in my career. So, I want to provide that we can watch and see how we grow and change. And, just even you have a telecommunicator who's maybe telecommunicator and, here's their 5-year anniversary. So for example, 20 years of service, that's a big deal. So you get a whole page for that.
That's awesome.
So we use them for different things, public relation events, career fairs. We are also millage funded. So when we go ask the voters to support the 911 millage, this is easy to say, hey, take a look and see what we do for your community type thing. So.
You kind of answered it already, but I was going to ask you, how important is it for the public to know what it is that you all do, especially when they're calling in? Mm-hmm. And actually, if there was anything that you would want the public to know about what it is that you all do here, what would you want them to know?
Honestly, that they are we are constantly preparing and training to help them during their emergency. And not only that, is that we stress customer service. You may be having the worst day of your life because no one really calls us to say, hey, 911, I'm having a great day. It doesn't normally happen, right? So I want my people to prepare and train all the time so that they're ready to handle that emergency and handle it well. So, there's different monthly training things that we have implemented, Sunday scenarios. So the supervisor picks a scenario and, they go through, it can be a small incident or a big incident that could happen. And it's kind of like a tabletop exercise. What are you going to do if this person calls in and says this? We do policy and procedure review. Their favorite is doing the EMD cards, not Pro QA, where it's on the computer. You have to pull out the cards and actually do it that way. But we're always trying to plan and strategize and always be, on top of our training to make sure that we are ready for the calls. And not only that, is that if they're properly prepared, it's also going to help their mental wellness. Hey, I took that call, I helped someone, I made a difference. And if they weren't properly prepared, that could also be damaging mentally to not feel equipped to be able to properly do a job correctly.
So as we go into the wrap up of this interview, and looking back at your time through dispatch, where you're at now, all of it, what is something that you're most grateful for? Something that is, kind of memorable for you and your story?
So I wouldn't change anything. There's been days where, there's different parts of your career that, went really well and some not. But the biggest thing, as I get the privilege of being their director now, right? But I always remember where I came from. I always remember what it felt to be that new person. I always remember that I also kind of wanted more. I wanted to be out doing public relation events and like being part of the community because I talk too much. No, I'm social, but it makes you, it gives that full circle, and you kind of get some closure. So the good, the bad, like it hasn't been a smooth ride my whole entire career, right? But I'm grateful for the good, but I'm also grateful for the bad times because I think it has allowed me to grow and be a better leader. So.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much for all of this. Also, your thought process and how you do everything here at your center. It's very refreshing to hear because you know how it was way back, and especially for myself, just like first starting out, it was completely different, and I just love the way things have changed now. More people are talking about things. They're looking more into workplace culture. The dispatchers and call takers are being more recognized and shown out there. And I'm hoping that with all of this that all of us are doing, that saying of the most important person you will never see won't be a thing anymore.
Correct.
Because people will learn, they will understand, and they will respect and recognize everything that happens in dispatch. So thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
This has been a lot of fun, and I thank you for letting me come in here, record episodes, and just do all this stuff and giving me a tour. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming. We're a little crazy, We can bust out in a dance after this if you want. I don't care.
Well, that's a wrap. We're going to dance. Oos, 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 oos. As I said in the beginning, it was so much fun to be out there with all of them. As you saw right there in the end, Kelley and I just getting down on the other side of the camera. Her husband was there, and then one of her supervisors, Libby, was there as well. So we were in there and just doing all of that. It was so much fun. Again, thank you, Kelley and crew, for allowing me to come in and film and just being a part of your day the day that I was there. So that was a lot of fun. Just the stories that came out of that, it was so good. You've got the ugly sweater bank robber. You've got never make a dispatcher mad because there's 12 hours that dispatch has to find you, or 8 hours, whatever shift length that you're working, but also prioritizing mental health there at the center as well. So many good things that was part of this episode. And again, it was just an honor and pleasure to be out there with all of you. So if you have any comments or questions and you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that is wttpodcast@gmail.com. You can become a supporter of the podcast, whether that be on Circle, Patreon, or Facebook. And you can do all of that by simply going to links.co/WTT podcast. And that's links with 2 I's. .co/WTT podcast. You can find everything there: email, social media, the latest episode, where to schedule an episode, which, watching and listening, if you are a new dispatcher or seasoned dispatcher or retired, I would love to have you on the podcast. So shoot me a message in the email that I gave, or again, simply go to links.co/WTT podcast. And there's a button there where you can schedule an episode with me. I would love to share your story. This has been sponsored by In Digital, Leader Next Gen Core Services. You can see this on Facebook, X, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn Live. And then you can listen to the show 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you in the next one.